Okay, I'd like to call the regular council meeting to order for March 14th, and I just want to note a couple of things here before we approve the agenda. That our RCMP R1-1 quarterly report, our officer in charge is not here. He has the flu, so he's going to be making his presentation or involved in that for council at our next council meeting. So if we can just scratch that from the agenda. And could I get a motion to approve the agenda as amended? It's moved and seconded, Brenda and Ebony. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Our next item here is the adoption of the council and COW meeting minutes. And we have the committee of the whole meeting for February 22nd, the February 22nd regular council meeting, the February 23rd special council meeting, the February 25th special council meeting, and the March 7th special council meeting. Could I get a motion to approve all of those in one fell swoop? Any objections to that? It's moved. Is there a seconder? Any errors or omissions on that? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. The next item is the receipt of draft council committee minutes for information. So we have the February 18th Souk Community Center Advisory Committee, the February 24th Souk Program and the Arts Committee, the February 25th Hiring Committee, and the March 1st Souk Parks and Trails Advisory Committee. Could I get a motion to receive those minutes for information purposes?
So moved.
It's moved. Brenda? Seconder?
Second.
Kevin? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, the next item is our delegations and requests to address council. And we have a number of presentations. The time limit of these presentations are 5 minutes each. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4. So we could go for 20 minutes. So I'm just going to ask the presenters. Most of us, I think we do have in detail copies of the presentations. We may not have all the information, but that's in accordance with our procedural bylaw. So the first organization we have is the Souk Park Watch Society Category A Community Grant, and Bjorn Stavrum is here. So would you like to come up? Go ahead. And just sit at the center seat. And we've got a green light, a yellow light, and that would give you a warning at 60 seconds, and then the red light is to stop. And then we'd have to have unanimous agreement by all council members for you to go beyond that timeline, if that's okay. So could you, your mic's on? Go ahead. Yeah. Now you've got the floor.
Okay, thanks, Rick. Thank you very much for allowing me to give a little bit of an overview about the problem that we have at Park Watch this year. And it does involve grants. Now, the issue of this district's previous elimination of the Juan de Fuca Park Watch Society's line item grant under your new council procedure and consequent reduction this year in the actual amount of the grant from $5,000 to a token $1,000 just can't wait at this particular time. Now, just a little bit of an overview. As usual, at this time of the year, we're gearing up in preparation for the 2016 season, our 15th season. Park Watch brochure ad sales are complete, and the printing of 38,000 copies is just around the corner, up from 35,000 from last year, I might add. We're lining up bottled water suppliers, about 3,500 bottles distributed to parched hikers last year. checking and repairing tables, signs, sandwich boards, meeting with CRD and BC Park staff for specific park overflow coordination, regional wilderness brochures acquisition, first aid training, checking radio communication, dealing with wildlife, especially black bears and cougars, of course, here, liaising with Suc RCMP and the RLC, who is the private sector provincial park operator. Our on-site patrol season begins on the long Victoria Day weekend in May and ends on the last weekend in September, during which time we're on duty every Saturday and Sunday. Now, from July 1st to Labor Day, we patrol the major parks, 7 major parks in our area, 7 days a week, staff availability permitting. Just a very brief history. 15 years ago, car break-ins, theft, damage to park property, litter, and general bad behavior in our region's wilderness parks, especially during the summer months, had put enormous strain on provincial BC parks and CRD regional park resources in our area, and on the RCMP for decades. The area's wilderness parking lots and trails were a hotbed for bad boys and girls. Well, they still are, but not when we're on duty. So in 2001, so that's 15 years ago, a plan was put in place under the Community Futures umbrella to deal with these recurring problems. But getting stakeholders together on the same page wasn't easy. It's not easy anywhere. Politicians from different levels of government, police, business organizations, tourism groups, with funding and organization a major issue. Who does what, who benefits, and who pays and how much. However, after the dust settled, it happened. Parkwatch was born. And now, after 15 years of largely unheralded effort, with virtually no overhead costs, it's nevertheless running super efficiently from the kitchen table of our coordinator here in Suc. So today, we are an effective organization of 14 to 16 people having to fund a $50,000 to $60,000 annual budget, hopefully, and carry out our basic work responsibilities for 3.5 months. They consist of providing security in the 6 major parks for 5 hours a day during peak use hours, providing first response in case of accidents, emergencies, and wildlife alerts, answering thousands of questions from visitors every summer about history, distances, restaurants, shopping, costs, accommodation, wildlife, trees, and logging, and, of course, politics. Proudly, we consider ourselves ambassadors in the area's parks, giving visitors a high comfort level while enjoying our beautiful beaches and wilderness attractions. When leaving, visitors most of the time give high praise and thanks to patrollers for looking after them, promising to return soon. Patrollers make every effort to personally exchange greetings with visitors on arrival. That's really important. All of us enjoy our work in the wilderness parks, come rain, shine, or otherwise, though shine is preferable, and staff turnover from year to year is virtually nil. The low Canadian dollar, collapse of Alberta oil prices, and the recent improvements in the circuit.
Or could I just stop you for a minute? Could I get a motion to extend? All those in favor? Go ahead.
Thank you. The low Canadian dollar, collapse of Alberta oil prices, and recent improvements in the Circle route has increased vehicle tourism and park activity enormously. But with such increases, there are costs, and politicians know it, in policing and protection, in parks access and maintenance, in signage, in accommodation, in business services and general commerce. I think we'd better be ready. Business better be ready. Government better be ready. Are they? With cutbacks in funding, our Parkwatch experience tells us neither business nor government is properly clued in and clearly not ready or willing and able, financially or otherwise, to address this new influx of seasonal visitors. Parkwatch's recent annual fundraising sources have not kept up with the increased volume of tourism work due to increased volume of visitors. Increased traffic means simply our workload is increasing, but grants have been falling. I think I'll just end it there. And
Okay, thank you very much. Any members have any questions? Councillor Ray.
Thank you. And just for a bit of background, Mr. Sturvin, I'm sorry, I didn't get your last name right.
Staben, yes.
Staben did try to attend the meeting on December the 14th, but was unable to get into the building to speak to council on this grant application and the recommendation from the Community Grant Review Committee on the reduction. So that's why he's here this evening, because he did not have that opportunity in December. And so I just wanted to give a bit of background to that.
Yeah, thanks for that, Kara. I had it later in my notes.
Any other questions? Okay. Yes, go ahead, Councillor Parkinson.
So I'd just like to say that I believe that. Sorry, thank you. I believe that Park Watch is a valid and a necessity in our community, and I believe that it does a great service for everyone here, including when we bring tourists in and the events that happen in all of our parks. And it is a feeling of security when you go into the parks knowing that Park Watch is there. I do a number of weddings in a number of the parks around here, and the people that are having their weddings out at the parks actually come back here and stay in Souk, in the hotels, and they use our services, and I think it's very beneficial. And I think the worst thing we can do is have people saying they're not coming back because they were robbed or their car was broken into. So I do support the district funding this program.
Councillor Logans.
I just want to add to what Councillor Parkinson stated about visitors at these parks, because as noted in your presentation, 70% of the people who attend them are local residents as well. So I remember when we went through the granting process, one of the reasons that Park Watch wasn't provided the grant was because it didn't serve the Sioux community. I never agreed with that, so I believe it, that especially since the money is in the grant budget, that should have been provided to you. I'm sorry it wasn't.
Mm-hmm. No, appreciate that. Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? Yes, Councillor Ray.
Yeah. Just again by background, the Community Grant Review reduced the funding because we were following the policy that is currently set out. And if that policy isn't working, then we need to take a look at it. I think what's been important that's been provided here this evening is in the information that's been provided is that there's an estimate that 70% of the visitors are residents from the area. So I certainly think that gives a bit more of a different perspective, but the Community Grant Committee was following the policy. And that's why, because French Beach and they're not within the district of Souk. Certainly something that this council can look at for future, but I think it's important to understand how that decision was made. But I would certainly support increasing the grant given the information we've received this evening. Thank you.
Councillor Pearson.
Thank you for your presentation, and I apologize for your not being in the room on December 14th, but it was one of those meetings. So I'm not sure, and I know the grant committee did a great work, and I thank you for your presentation. So I'm going to make a motion that we restore the back to the amount asked for this year, and at the same time, and I'll just can I make that motion?
That's what I was going to ask.
Well, I just have a couple of questions. Just to put it in perspective, I want to hear from staff, because I know we're going to have some budget deliberations next week.
Right.
And perhaps it might be a more opportune time to deal with it then, during our budget discussions. Mm-hmm. And we could, if we are sitting as a special council meeting, so it could be done at that time. But I would hope that if we get more information, additional information, that I think would help help the situation, we'd be better off.
Okay.
That's just my opinion.
Okay. Well, and I'm going to, and I thanks to the chair. I I took a little heat on this one in the public, because I guess that some people have mentioned to me that visitors to Souk, whether they're going to China Beach or French Beach or wherever they're going, they think they're going to Souk, whether they're coming from Victoria or not. So anyways, I'll still make the motion that we restore the funding to last year's amount. And then I think there's some further discussion on what we have to do as far as looking at the policy in some of these cases in these grants, because I think your work is, speaks for itself. And unfortunately, you didn't get to make that presentation, so it's a little bit tardy in this motion, but I'll make it anyway. So.
Okay, there's a motion that's been moved and seconded. I have a couple of questions, if I may. So I'd like to know from you, Bjorn, is how much money do you receive by way of a grant and aid from the Juan de Fuca electoral area? I'm not talking CRD funding from the regional parks. What kind of money do you receive by way of a grant from that organization or from that body? It's called a grant and aid.
I'm not quite sure which one you're referring to. From the CRD.
Well, there's the CRD
Yep.
regional parks funding that is funded out of the regional parks budget that is paid for by all the member municipalities in the capital region. And then, do you receive any money from a grant and aid through the electoral area director?
Not that we know of. I have notes here that says we received 10,000 from the CRD currently.
Right.
And that's up from 8,000 2 years ago.
Right.
We received 2,500 from RLC Enterprise, which is the private operator, contracted operator to the provincial parks in this area. We received 25, and that's down from 5,000.
Oh, so they dropped their price.
Yes. But theirs vary. They look at, it's like rolling the dice. It varies from year to year. 1 year it was 6,000, and then they drop it down to 4, and another year it was next to nothing. It's just, they're entitled to choose whatever number they want. But of course, what we do, when we're there in the parks, they don't need their staff in the park. They can go somewhere else and do whatever projects they need to work on, especially along the Juan de Fuca Trail, which is heavily used during the summertime.
Right.
So they're on the trail while we're looking after the parking lots on both ends, for that matter. So it really does vary. But in general, and we receive about 50% of our funding through on-site donations, about 50%. Mm-hmm. And the rest comes in grants from bodies like this one and the CRD. We receive, I believe, a grant from the Lions, a $500 grant, local Lions. And from the Trail Walking Society, we receive a couple of $100, I think.
Who looks after the regional park in East Souk, the East Souk Regional Park? From the far side, on the very far side off of Beecher Bay Road.
You mean the...
Yes.
Who?
Does Park Watch go there? Do you
yes,
go there? Right.
Yes.
And how about Island View?
No.
So who does that one?
It's not patrolled whatsoever except by CRD staff.
Right.
As a matter of fact, we're the only such society in all of Canada. We've been looking, across the country, who does what we do. But as I said, it's difficult getting all the people together, who should be partners here.
No, I agree.
And getting them all on the same page.
And it is too bad.
Understanding how important it is to be on site, you see. So this is really key.
And have you found that signage just doesn't work?
No.
So people don't pay attention to signs?
The signage is actually very poor in general in our parks as well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't understand it. There's not even a sign to Leechtown up at the potholes.
Right. Well,
People don't know where Leechtown is.
Well, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I have no further questions. I'll call the question on the motion. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. All right, so it looks like you're going to get $5,000. That was pretty easy, wasn't it?
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Our next speaker is the Wandafuka Salmon Restoration Society, Canada 150 grant application, Alita Pierce. Alita, how are you this evening?
Thank you very much.
And you heard the routine around the time. And if you go over, then I'll just turn to our my esteemed colleagues here and ask for a motion to extend. Okay.
Thank you.
Floor is yours.
Thank you for making time for us. Over the past few months, the Wandafuka Salmon Restoration Society has been able to reach out to many area organizations to discuss the planning for Souk's celebration of Canada's 150th anniversary in 2017 and the initiation of a salmon festival. We've been in discussions with Councillor Rose Dumont of South Nation in moving this forward, as we have a long history of collaborating together for our community. Some of the groups have undertaken serious planning and budgeting, while others are mulling over the possibilities. It seems to us that our endeavors will be limited only by our collective imaginations. Groups who have been contacted to contribute their imaginations and skills include the Sauk Region Chamber of Commerce, Sauk Region Historical Society, the Sauk Lions family, which includes those roaring male lions, Sauk Harborside Lions, and the District Lioness. We're working with Sauk Community Association, the Sauk Philharmonic, Sauk Community Choir, and many more. Sauk Salmon Enhancement Society, and who knows more about salmon than these dedicated men, have offered their assistance. And we expect the collaboration of the groups that organize the derbies, such as the Saltwater Series. There's to be an essay competition at Journey Middle School with a prize coming from the regional director, and we're hoping there will be seafood dinners, perhaps a grand banquet, and auction and a competition for historical art that commemorates Canadian history. And perhaps a group will organize the making of cakes, one for each year. Both the community hall and the theatre at Edward Milne are being booked for these events, which will include a pageant with well-known local personalities portraying figures from Canada's history. We've been told that will be a sellout. It's likely that the whole thing will be kicked off by the presentation of the video the museum is producing of Woodside Farm, Canada's oldest operating farm west of the Great Lakes. So this evening, as we look forward to council support in principle, we're looking forward to announcing a competition for designs featuring salmon for the street banners that we hope will be accomplished through this undertaking. We suggest that 4 different salmon designs be selected by the judges and that those designs be repeated throughout the town. There's another very special event that we're looking forward to, and that is to start an annual competition for the best smoked salmon. With the number of smoked salmon experts in our widespread region, we don't think any individual judge would be brave enough to choose the best sample. So we're suggesting a taste-off, with votes being cast by those who wish to participate in the judging. And the trophy, presented by the Vowles family, our historic seafood people, is to be given in memory of their late parents, William and Sarah Vowles. And after we've got that going, we expect to approach Council in 2017 for a special designation to be added to the Welcome to Sauk Gateway entrance. You see, a few years ago, when Liz Johnson and I represented Sauk at several annual provincial conferences for communities in bloom, we heard many comments about the enormous contributions made by volunteers in Sauk. So we came back and asked Sauk Council, Janet Evans was mayor then, if Sauk could be designated as the volunteer capital of Canada. Council agreed, and the sign went up. And guess what? come 2017, we expect to be back to ask this council if we can also be designated as the smoked salmon capital of Canada. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And you still had 36 seconds, I think, left, which was great. Now that might set a tone for the future. I appreciate that. So, any questions of council? Yes, go ahead, Councillor Logan.
Alita, you are fantastic, and so is your little team of folks who have put this all together. Excellent presentation. I have a question about when this might happen. I might have missed it in the beginning, but what was the date of the presentation?
We are working with the many people that we've had contacts with to establish a schedule. So there will be many events over a period of time. It won't be just like one weekend. So I can't really answer it because we're collaborating.
Okay. I have a suggestion, if I may, of who to collaborate with, because I have a letter on my desk, actually, that Acting Mayor Casper has assigned to the EMCS Society's Souk Youth Engagement team. They're hosting a Souk Basin Festival, and that will be August 27th of this year. They're hoping to do it every year, but essentially it's a water sport festival where they're doing kayaking and stand-up paddleboarding and surfing.
Thank you very much,
it might go
Councillor.
well.
I have called them and haven't got an answer yet.
Okay,
But I
perfect.
have tried, and I
Great.
definitely want to do that. So thank you.
Okay. Excellent.
Councillor Ray. and then
Thank you very much for your presentation. It was great, and I see at the end of it you have actually 2 requests for the council. One is, so I'll move a motion that council provide the Wanda Fuca Salmon Restoration Society with an expression of support in principle for our plans, for your plans, not ours. Would you need a letter for that?
It would be wonderful to
Okay.
have a letter to include. We will be asking other groups in the area to provide letters. That's
Okay.
already underway. And it would be wonderful to have yours from council.
And so I'll add that to the motion that we do so in a written letter. And that I'll also move that we.
are we going to do 2 motions or just?
Okay, well, there's 2. She's
Okay,
got
could I
2
get a
requests.
seconder to the?
Okay.
Okay, it's moved and seconded. Does everyone understand that motion? Staff understand that motion? Any further discussion on that? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried.
And then the second request is to approve the use of the brackets for the street banners to be used as collateral in the grant application.
Second.
Yeah, is there any discussion or questions about that? I think it's a great idea. Do we know how many brackets we have?
I'm not sure of the total, but I have been in touch with staff, and I think they're working on that.
And it's my hope that with those decorative lights that are in the center part of the town center, that those be double brackets as opposed to single brackets as they're currently laid out. I don't know what happened there, but I was under the impression that they were going to be double brackets. So we may have to recount those and make sure we have the appropriate fixtures installed.
May I say
Yes, go
thank you
ahead.
for the support that you're offering here this evening. This morning, one of the first things I heard on CBC was an announcement out of Toronto from the Heritage Minister. I don't know if everyone else heard it as well, but she made 2 big announcements for money going to Toronto. And it just gives me added incentive to make sure we get some money coming out here for Souk.
Okay, very good. Any more discussion? Could I get it's motion, but I'll call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you very much, Alita.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Oh, what was that, Carrie?
Sorry. Also, in terms of Mrs. Pierce's document, perhaps we could refer back to staff, the labeling of the Shields road work. It's in the back of the...
Oh, right, okay, all right, thank you. All right, I'll call the question on that. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Oh, you're very welcome. So now, as you heard, 5 minutes, and then if you go beyond, then I'd have to get a unanimous motion to extend that. Thank you.
Understood.
It's your turn.
I think I'm supposed to say, Your Worship, Acting Mayor Rick Casper, and members of council. That's what I'm told I'm supposed to start with. So that's what I'm starting with. Okay, I'm going to talk to the council bylaw, the procedure bylaw, and the fact that the first thing I read from Mr. Joseph, sitting beside me here, were comments to the effect that Suc's been doing it wrong since 2009. I was offended by that comment because I think I've attended as many council meetings as most people, and I don't think I even knew there was a procedural bylaw because everything just seemed to move along quite smoothly. So, but later on I'm going to show you that other people make errors too. We were told that too much time was being allowed for public input on matters that Mr. Joseph thought should not be debated, and that they had a legal opinion that we could only discuss.
So I'm just going to ask you to try not to brandish staff.
That's fine.
I have to take a position as a council member to ensure that because staff cannot speak for themselves,
Okay.
that we try to keep the comments relating to the bylaw and not personalities.
I'm
with all
going to
greatest
keep
respect.
it to the bylaw.
Okay, thank you.
We were told that we could only discuss agenda items and that minutes could not be discussed. There's a problem with that, and that problem is that when we have a public hearing, the report that should be separate from the minutes is in the minute package, always. So if we cannot go back and correct something that we've been quoted as saying at a public hearing because we cannot address the minutes, then that's not fair, and you will have to see that from now on the report be separate from the minutes. However, Robert's Rules is quite clear that the first order of business is the minutes. So if the minutes are the first order of business, then clearly they're a product of the agenda. And where it states in here that there can't be debated, that's referring to how council deals with the minutes, not the fact that there might be an item in the minutes that some of us would address. It's not a debate, it's just a fact. So I feel that needs correcting. But anyway, on February the 22nd, excuse me, public input at the Committee of the Whole was denied, and we were told again that there was a legal opinion backing that matter. And when the public started to hear about this, clearly there was a bit of an uproar through the community, and so now we've gone to overkill. We've gone to the statement that members of the public can each speak to each item as long as it's a report, a bylaw, or new business. I don't favor that at all. I think it's overkill, and council were elected to deal with those issues, and we've always had an opportunity to speak to them somewhere along the way. And it's going to make your meetings a bit ridiculous as far as I'm concerned, because you're the elected folks, we're just ordinary folks, and you have a position up there, and believe it or not, I do honor that, and I don't see that you should create equality between the public. It would be nice, however, if we didn't have to look at backs, but that's another issue. So I don't favor that at all. I think it's going to make your meetings long and cumbrous, and it actually The council seems to have some problems concentrating at times anyway, so let's not make it any harder. And I noticed looking through the council procedure bylaws in the government document that they have a question, a lot of them have question periods at the end of the meeting for the media and the public. Now I've got two issues to settle tonight. One is that I believe that the Director of Corporate Services title, I know it's not a recognized officer position in the district bylaw. Therefore, my feeling is that there is no Director of Corporate Services in Souk, and that the Director of Corporate Services who's rewriting our, I just ran out of time.
Can I get a motion just to extend?
I don't believe that there is that position available, so the question is, if I'm not allowed to use the name, should the so-called Director of Corporate Services be rewriting our procedural bylaw when in fact he does not have a position in the District of Souk? And the bylaw is forward tonight for first, second, and third reading, and there is a major error here in that Section 94 of the Community Charter says that the procedural bylaw cannot be amended or repealed or substituted unless council first gives notice in accordance with Section 94 of the Community Charter. And that notice is exactly the same as you would have to have for a public hearing. So first, second, and third reading tonight would not be proper because no notice was given. I checked the notice board and I checked the newspapers, and notice has not been given. And that's really all I have to say. I think the position, I see that there's a move in here to change the position or to add to the position of corporate officer, which when that's done, that's fine because we have a corporate officer position in our Souk bylaw. We do not, however, have one for a Director of Corporate Services. Therefore, that position is not valid at this meeting or any other meeting or any in-camera meeting or any expenditure of money or anything else. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. The next presentation is the Youth for Change, and it's sidewalks along Edward Milne Road. And Nick Gakina, I apologize for that, Nick. Did I get it right? Gakena.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Oh, good, you've got a presentation.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Is this on?
Okay, go ahead. Yes.
So just like to say thanks for having me tonight. And I'm here on behalf of Youth for Change. We're a group at Edward Milne Community School. And we undertake projects that we believe are in the interests of students. And our most recent project is trying to get this sidewalk built along Edward Milne Road. So I've consulted someone from your engineering department to see some possible cost options for this. And he's provided this drawing here. It's 205 meters long, and he believes it'll cost about $45,000. So I'm just asking that you could allocate a portion of your budget to this. We've received pretty tremendous community support here. I have a petition, copy of all the signatures here, 246 signatures. Yeah, and that's sorry. Yeah, I wanted to keep it short, yeah.
So I just, well, I'll turn it over to, we'll Right, I'll turn it over to council members who may have some questions or comments of you, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Yes, Councillor Logan.
Can you give us, thanks for your presentation.
Sorry.
Can you also provide maybe a bit more information about why you decided to gather a petition, what makes it important to the community, what makes it important to your group?
Right. So we believe that this is necessary to improve the safety of all the students, the hundreds of students that use this road on a daily basis. We've talked to the Sucreville Road store, and he thinks that this is great for him because, you know, a lot of his customer base is students from the school. So he's actually provided his written support for this.
Great, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, I just, go ahead. Just a question. So do you think that students would walk on the south side of the road, on the transit side?
With the sidewalk along the highway?
Well, it's on the same road that's outlined in, if you go back in your slide there. So you see where it's outlined, where you've outlined it on the store side.
Yeah.
Then what about on the side that's closest to the Souk Highway, that's just opposite the sidewalk there?
Well,
would students use that?
Ideally, they would, but I think we can see practically that sidewalk doesn't get a lot of traffic.
Right. Yeah, one of the things when I went down there just that I noticed, and I don't know why it ever happened, but where the transit exchange is, it appeared that they laid out the parking requirements or what they ideally thought should be for parking stalls, and then they went ahead and installed a bunch of landscaping that actually occupied the shoulder surface that was there before the transit exchange ever got built, which actually makes it impossible for anybody walking on that side of the road to go to the school. And it forces everybody to go on the north side where the store is. The other thing that I think, you know, and hopefully we can get this information through to staff, is that in trying to firm up these estimates, where the road right-of-way goes in front of the stores, in an ideal world, perhaps there could be a estimate as to painting some hatch marks there so that it's clearly defined that that's a place where people are going to walk, and you know, then people who are parking in the parking lot are cognizant of that. And the other thing that I've received a complaint about is the very poor quality of the crosswalk that goes across Sucreville Road on the north side of the road. So I don't know if your colleagues at school have witnessed that or see that there is really no clearly defined crosswalk, and it's substantially worn out. And better signage, I think, too.
Yeah, I think all of that could be very helpful.
All right. So, you know, I don't know, is there a motion to actually refer this to staff? And Councillor Parkinson?
I was going to ask whether we could refer it to our budget deliberations to have it put forward. Yeah.
Okay, is there a second to that? I'll second. Yes, Councillor Ray.
Thank you, and I think it's a great thing for you to take the initiative and your colleagues at school, the other students, and it also takes quite a bit of stamina to come before council. So congratulations! I think you did very well tonight.
Thank you.
My comment is I attended a school district 62 Safer Routes to School, and I think that the issue of sidewalks at a lot of schools in Souk has been raised. So I just think we have to be mindful that we have a number of schools, for example, John Muir and the end of Grant Road crossing over. So you coming forward with this petition puts the sidewalks and safety of kids at school right front and center for us. So thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, yes, go ahead.
If I could just say
Yes.
something about that. I understand that it's very important to put one in front of John Muir, but from our perspective, what we saw was that road from the children there doesn't actually get as much traffic as Edward Milne Road. Foot traffic, sorry.
And I think that it's important that you do, carry on with this. And I really appreciate the fact that you actually contacted our staff and open up a dialogue and discussion on the issue. So I appreciate that.
Thank you.
So could I call the question on the motion? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Okay, the next item is the public question and comment period. We have 10 minutes and 2-minute time limit per person. Okay, who would, yes. Yes, go ahead, sir, and just come to the microphone. Please state your name and your address for the record.
My name is David Evans. My address is 6860 Banner Road here in Sauk. I'm also a business owner and the proprietor of the Stick in the Mud. On your agenda tonight, you have an informational document from the District of Metchosin. I think it's the last item on the agenda, or second to last. Let me just refer to that for a sec. I-5. I'm really hoping that Sauk Council can take some action and maybe pass their own resolution, or at the very least, in the bottom paragraph of this from Metchosin, it says, "And be it further resolved that the Association of Vancouver Island Coastal Communities send a letter to the government, Minister of Forest, Lands and Natural Resource Operations, and others to protect old growth on Vancouver Island." In about 120 years, we've gone from 100% old growth on the island to about 5% unprotected. This is not an anti-logging statement. This is preserving museum pieces for the kids. And I think when your grandchildren say, "What did you do, Granddad or Grandma, when you had a chance to save the forests?" I think we should all say, "Everything I could." So please, when this does come up on the agenda, debate the heck out of it. Call me for any questions. And I really hope that you resolve to sign the letter and to pass your own resolution. Can I ask you to ask me any questions?
Pardon, do you want?
Do you guys have any questions about old growth forests? About how they benefit the community and the economy?
Well, normally, we don't get into that aspect, but I know that when council does discuss it, they'll probably want some information.
Okay.
I don't know if they may want the information directly from you.
Well, there are many sources of information about this, and we're kind of at the tail end of old growth on Vancouver Island and in BC and around the world. And it would really be a shame to see Sauk not take a stand in favor of preserving what we can here on the South Island.
Yeah. Well, you probably don't know this, but when I was an MLA for 10 years, my first term of office was supporting the government initiative to establish major agreements and policies that are still in place today. So
good. So we see eye to eye on
and
this.
one of the very first documents I signed was the preservation of the Lower Carmanah, and when that was established as a park, I was shocked that an MLA would actually be required to sign the document. I hadn't even been elected 2 months, and a Ministry of Forest official came into my office and said, "I have a cabinet order, and there's a box here that says the member for this area was required to sign it." So that's going
Well, what's
back a long
interesting is
time.
the Walburn Valley is again under threat. The park is not. The park is secure, but it's the specialty management zones around the park that are now in threat and being logged as we speak.
So we've gone past the time. So thank you very much for your input. I appreciate it. Is there anybody else who would like to come forward?
I'll take 2 more.
Thanks for your enthusiasm. Ellen?
Hate to have to do this again. I know this is in regard to the minutes, as was spoken to before about the minutes. On page 17 on your minutes, it says public question and comment period, and it says Ellen Lure spoke regarding council procedure bylaw, 2016-20, 5-year financial plan development schedule. Well, if somebody looks back at that, they're going to go, so what? I think that's incomplete. I think there should be better reporting than that. I think it should say what the questions were. And I also wanted to know about the rising and reporting of the land sale. I was told at this meeting, because I did ask about that was a question, and I was told at the March 14th meeting that you would talk about it, and did council, in fact, discuss it in camera, and when are we going to hear a rising report on that as well? That's it. Thank you.
Anybody else who would like to speak? Okay, hearing none, then our next item of business is a public hearing, and it's in regard to bylaw number 600, zoning amendment bylaw. And I'm just going to read out this statement before we conduct the public hearing. It says the public hearing is being held pursuant to the Local Government Act. At this public hearing, any person who believes that their interest in property is affected by the proposed bylaw will be given a reasonable opportunity to be heard or to present written submissions respecting matters contained in the bylaw, and that the subject of this hearing, copies of written submissions received to date, are available. It is important that all who speak at this hearing restrict their remarks to matters contained in the bylaw, and it is my responsibility as chair of the hearing to ensure that all remarks are so restricted. Those of you who wish to speak at the appropriate time, commence your address to council by clearly stating your name and address. Then you may give us the benefit of your views concerning the proposed bylaw. Submissions must be received before or during the public hearing in order to be considered by council. Member of council may, if they wish, ask questions of you following your presentation or submission. However, the main function of council members this evening is to listen to the views of the public. It is not the function of council at this public hearing to debate the merits of the proposed bylaw with individual citizens. Everyone who deems his or her interest in property to be affected shall be given the opportunity to be heard at this hearing. No one will be or should feel discouraged or prevented from making his or her views known. So I'll now turn it over to staff. I think staff has a presentation. Great. Catherine? Hi. And you have a display? Yes. Okay, very good.
Good evening, Your Worship and members of Council. I'll just give a brief overview of the proposed text amendments to the zoning bylaw that were discussed last month. The first amendment addresses options for live work. Currently, there is provision in Bylaw 600 for employee housing. However, technically, employee housing requires a formal housing agreement with the district. This use has its place, but it does not address the option of having one dwelling unit for the business owner or for a caretaker to live on site. We already include an accessory dwelling unit in the C4 zone and the institutional zones P1, P2, and P3. So we've taken the language already in the bylaw, one accessory dwelling unit per lot, and recommend it be added to the commercial and industrial zones. This will provide consistency in language throughout the bylaw. The second proposed amendment is clarification of language related to these accessory units. The language exists throughout the bylaw, and it's recommended that it be clarified in all the affected zones. So right now, the zoning bylaw condition of use states that if an accessory dwelling unit is a detached single-family dwelling, it must be located above or to the rear of the principal use. But by its very nature, a detached single-family dwelling cannot locate above the principal use, because then it would be attached. So in order to clarify the intent, staff are recommending the existing language be replaced with accessory dwelling units must be located above or to the rear of the principal use. And we think that this clarifies the intent of what Council was hoping to achieve. The third proposed amendment is related to the commercial zones. It's proposed that microbrewery of no more than 500 square meters and artisan industry of no more than 200 square meters is permitted in all of the commercial zones. We currently permit brew pub in a number of zones. However, under liquor licensing, brew pubs are restaurants with accessory brewing. The key is that the facility has to serve food. So a microbrewery, on the other hand, is not required to serve food, but typically has a tasting room and some on-site sales. Staff was looking for clarification from council that microbreweries of a limited scale is a logical fit in the commercial zones. The other land use up for discussion is artisan industry of no more than 200 square meters. This is currently permitted in the CTC zone. It is proposed that artisan industry is added to the C1, C2, C3, and C4 zones. New artisan industries are emerging all over the island, including in and around Souk. These artisan-type industries can create an interesting mix of uses and activities. Following public hearing, Council will have the option of providing third reading to the bylaw as amended on February 22nd. As mentioned throughout this presentation, none of the uses brought forward are new. They each exist in the bylaw today, but in other zones. The question before Council is whether to support these uses in a few more zones, to provide consistency in the language of Bylaw 600, and to provide more options for future entrepreneurs with the ultimate goal of supporting local tourism and town centre revitalization.
Okay, thank you. Does any council members have any questions of staff? It's basically the same presentation we had at the last council meeting, correct?
Correct.
Okay, are there any members of the public that would like to come forward to speak to the bylaw? Okay, could you please state your name and address for the
Ellen
public
Lawrence,
record?
5526 Souk Road. I just have a question. If this zoning amendment was to go ahead as it says, would there then be no zoning requirement changes if somebody was to apply? Like, would they have to apply for zoning? Are we in fact giving a zoning change to all these properties? Is what I'm asking. So would these people then not have to apply, or these properties not have to apply for a zoning change?
Catherine? Yes, go ahead, Catherine.
Individual property owners would not have to apply to change those. It's a broad brush text amendment.
Okay.
So would they have to apply for a permit for changes to their, for the building, into the building, for a residential building or anything like that? For the footprints?
Catherine?
There would still be permits required for form and character, so any sort of permits that were required would still go through the official community plan guidelines.
Okay, so we
And a building permit, et
And
cetera.
building permits,
and
et
building
cetera.
permits. So we lose the zoning change costs or charges that we normally get, correct? Okay, thank you.
Yes. Is there anyone else? Yes. Could you please state your name and address for the record? Thank you.
All right, thank you. Diane Bernard, 2018 Penang Road. I'm also a business owner on Otter Point Road. Mine's just a clarification question. Sorry, I'm just coming in on this. Is there a map that shows what areas you're talking about, like what's being proposed? And if there's a map that can kind of show us what you're looking to do. So you're looking to, and I have to get some clarification, sorry. My concern is that I do support the artisan. I support all the changes in that. However, my concern is that we really want to keep that core vibrant and keep as much coming into the core in terms of businesses. And I'm just concerned that this might be a diluting of the core and allowing things off into the residential areas. There's home-based businesses in that. Is that what this is? Or is it a further thing on the artisan? Is this a new category? And if we want to keep the core going and alive. There's certain areas up Sucreville Road, the artists and that's another specialty kind of thing. And that's the concern I'm expressing. And if someone can just answer some of those questions, I would appreciate that.
Yeah, we won't get into the discussion about your concern, and
Okay.
that's your opinion about the bylaw, and you've raised that, and thank you very much. But just a clarification as to what zones this will apply to.
So this map indicates all of the zones that are impacted by this bylaw are in red. So a lot of the parks are shown because we are changing the language around the accessory dwelling unit and where they're located. So it does show a lot more properties being affected than maybe, I think perhaps what Ms. Bernard is speaking to mostly is the artisan industry and the microbrewery. Is
Well,
that
I don't
correct?
understand what's the difference between this and a home-based business. I mean, I had a home-based business, had one for years, and so we worked that way, but it wasn't artisanal or anything like that. That category didn't really exist at the time. So I'm just wondering what's the, that difference of that home-based business and artisanal, and if it's a home-based business, then it should still be standing okay within the current bylaws, and if it's not, I'm going to still repeat that concern that Souk drive focus on, on the core and keep getting that more and more vibrant and not diluting the business being done in the core. Thank you very much.
Okay, I appreciate your comments. Any more comments?
No, that's...
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else who would like to be heard in regard to this bylaw? Please state your name, address for the record. Thank you.
Gail Hall, 2517 Sucreville Road. This is another instance where we are presented with a zoning change and there's been no meeting or gathering ahead of the public hearing where we could have all of these questions answered. We were promised that after the one on Idlemore Road, where we had no opportunity before the public hearing to have our questions addressed. And it makes it very difficult. And I have a question reference the fact that they can just automatically go ahead and do this, that there's no application, therefore there's no application fee. And my understanding is that taking away a fee is actually granting assistance to business, which is illegal. And I would like that looked at because everyone else who rezones properly pays a fee for their application, and yet you've got all of these opening up and no fees. And I think you need to look at that because it is in the statutes. You cannot grant assistance to business by removing a fee.
Thank you. Is there any other questions or comments in regard to the public hearing in this bylaw? Okay, I'll ask a first time. Are there any other comments to be heard? A second time, are there any other comments to be heard? And a third and final time, are there any other comments to be heard? Hearing none, I'll declare the public hearing closed. And now, Council, before it has a number of recommendations or a recommendation, and if I could just get Tina, could you read out what that motion is for the benefit of Council?
So the motion would be that Council give third reading to bylaw number 630 as amended.
Okay, you've heard the recommendation and the motion. Is anyone prepared to make that motion?
So moved.
And there's a seconder? Seconder. Any further discussion on that? Councillor Pearson?
Yeah, and I want to thank staff for bringing this forward because it's really clear that it's the existing zoning, and I understand that these are uses, not changing zoning, and most of the properties, some of the questions that we heard are located in the town center, so I think it's consistent with what we should be doing, and adding uses to zoning is not changing zoning or removing fees. So it's a good step forward in developing opportunities in our community.
Any further comments? Yes, Councillor Parkinson.
I agree with it's adding opportunities for the community. I was just wondering about the application fee and whether it is granting assistance. I don't understand that part, so I would like that explained to me. That no application fee is granting assistance to businesses. So should we be applying them to the people if they're opening up a new business?
I'll ask Catherine Letition to respond to this. Go ahead, Catherine.
This is a district-initiated change, and so staff have been hearing from a number of businesses that are trying to locate or relocate into Souk, and so this is a broad issue. It's not a one-off issue, so we approached it as a broad issue, and so we tackled the text amendment so that it addressed a number of zones.
So the only thing that I guess if they were to have a shop or something, then they would have to get their business license, and that would be one of the only fees they're paying?
They would pay a fee for a development permit if they were constructing a building, and then a business license fee and a building permit.
Would it be? I have a question. Would it be fair to comment that under the old bylaw that we used to have in place, bylaw 240, I think it was, done in 2006, that that a residential unit was permitted in an industrial zone and a commercial zone?
I could confirm that for you for sure, but I believe that it was.
So we're actually going back and restoring some of the property rights that were in place before.
That's right, and that's the another issue that's just come up.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, Councillor Logans.
Thanks. I just wanted to comment in regards to diluting the core. I think that was a good question to ask. However, I think that it will kind of revitalize the core. I believe that what staff have brought forward gives a lot more opportunity to people to relocate to the Souk region or has the opportunity to start new business in the Souk region. It will improve our economic development and in turn bring more to the town center. So I think it will help give us a good place to start and move forward.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. No other questions, comments? Okay, I'll call the question. All those in favor of the motion as read? Opposed? Carried. Thank you very much. Our next item of business is Bylaw 632, and it's the Revenue Anticipation Borrowing Bylaw. Could I get a motion for that item? And that's to give final adoption.
Council adopt Bylaw 632, Revenue Anticipation Borrowing Bylaw 2016.
Great. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. The next item of business is Bylaw 634, Council Procedure Amendment Bylaw, number it's 422-1. So I'll turn it over to staff right now to give a brief outline presentation as to the changes that have been proposed by staff. Gabriel?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This report came from a request from former acting mayor, Councilor Ray, and current acting mayor, Casper. Obviously, I mentioned before that this bylaw needs much more substantial edits, but that's a conversation for later. These edits were done to dramatically increase public participation and also to provide some clarity in the language so everyone was on the same page, if you will. I'm not going to regurgitate the entire report, but I'll just point out a couple of the key points. In Section 18, a new order of business has been there to bring all the items the public can speak to together so that members of the public don't have to wait till later on in the meeting. Those 4 items come one right after the other. By bringing them early, as I said, this reduces the waiting. And this updates the sections as per the other proposed amendments so that it's current. Section 19 provides greater clarity around the language. It's increased the speaking time from 2 minutes to 3 minutes per item, which is in and of itself a dramatic increase. And members of the public can now speak to unlimited items on the agenda, which again is a dramatic increase in public participation. The former section on delegations, the reason for the name change is that the word delegations can be a bit confusing for some people. Even when I got here, I wondered exactly what that was or how you were using it. And I think the term public presentations to council is much more clear for everyone. It's more universal language. In answer to Councillor Logan's, I've made a comment about presentations having their materials into council in advance. The bylaw currently says all presentation materials, and I may comment that that could be all written materials, and maybe a PowerPoint could be at the end, with the proviso that Councillor Logan's had talked about increasing the rigor of the application form. And really, any presentation, when it's done well, should simply be a regurgitation of what's in your written materials. So I think if we can coach people in that way, you won't get any surprises with your presentations. So that can maybe bridge a gap. I'm not sure. As well, this section now provides a report to council, which you have a sample. That was just an idea that was drawn up. As to anyone who's applied to council to speak, you'll now know exactly what the result of their application was, what their topic was, and who they are. So there's complete transparency and accountability in that process. And it also provides now for an appeal. So if someone has an issue with the decision that was made, they can appeal to council as well. Everything is upfront. And the last section I'll talk about is the new Section 42, which is a councillor request for information. We heard from people that they'd like to be able to speak to items that are not on the agenda. No one member of council can direct administration, only council as a whole can, but one individual councillor can certainly ask for information. By doing that, a staff report can come back that's designed to come back at the next meeting, and that way that item can then be on the meeting. This is done in other municipalities, and it works quite well. So at least it bridges the gap between council's need to have information with the public's desire to speak. I don't think it's reasonable to expect council to make a decision off the fly without having at least an administrative response. And by doing that, you can have both sides. And I think that can bridge a gap. But obviously, we can follow council's direction on where they'd like to go with this. Thank you.
Okay, questions. Councillor Parkinson?
I was just going to say that a number of the public couldn't hear you as you were speaking. I was trying to say that.
Oh.
They were.
Any questions or comments? Okay, there's a recommendation. Oh, yes, go ahead.
As do I.
Emily, go ahead.
Sorry, just going through my notes here. Again, I appreciate you guys going through this and or staff going through this and seeing if we have ways where we can make it easier and more efficient for public to comment and have more opportunity to comment. So that's great. I still cannot support the required provision of materials if the requirement is to provide all the materials in advance. I don't think that's fair to the public. And I think when it comes to deciding who gets to be a delegation and who does not, I like the way it was before. I think that everyone should have an opportunity to speak, regardless of what the concern is for the delegations. And I guess the reason why I say that is because when I look at the report, and it has the example of approved, denied, delegations, there may be one that's a bit more timely, and perhaps the content wasn't explained properly or what have you. That's a decision that council should make, I believe.
Councillor Logans, if I may, just in response to that.
It's just, did you have more questions? And then we'll get to the response, okay? And would you like a response right now, or just a clarification on that?
Yeah, clarification, and then I have another one as well.
Go ahead, Gabriel.
The idea with providing that report is that if there is a change, because you can see in the example where someone was approved for a future council meeting, if council wanted to change that by having an updated list each meeting, they could do that. And that was the intent, so that you have an idea of what's coming up in your upcoming meeting.
Yes, but if they are denied and it's a timely matter, then that becomes an issue.
They could be as well. We can tell anyone if you'd like, or we could institute this process, that if someone is denied, we can say, listen, you can still come to the meeting and council can hear your appeal. And that can be part of the appeal process.
Is that currently written in this?
It's not in the bylaw, but it can certainly be a procedure.
Yeah, I guess overall, what I'm trying to do is give it a little bit more wiggle room than it has right now. It seems a bit too strict. Like, the ideas are great, but I think they just need a little bit of tweaking to make it a bit more open. Like, I like that idea of, well, they can come anyway, and we can see if we have enough time, if we have enough interest, what have you, but ultimately a council decision on that.
You mentioned the idea of someone being denied, or if they don't have all the materials in. There's also a provision in the bylaw that allows council to waive that.
Yes, but again, when are we going to have the chance to waive it?
At the meeting.
Yeah, I don't know what to tell you. And I do struggle with the appeal to speak to council. This isn't court. I feel like it's putting up walls, and what this council has been trying to do in general is take some walls down. It just seems a bit unnecessary to me. What are we trying to stop people from saying? I don't think necessarily an appeal process is, I think it's taking it a bit too far.
Could you speak to that first on what is the current policy before we even make any changes in regard to a denial and the appeal process? Could that be clarified? And if our CAO could answer it, or could you answer it? One or the other, because I know there's a provision in the current procedural bylaw.
Sure, and part of the, I should mention as well, under your current bylaw, because you're talking about the people should be allowed to speak to anything they want, your current bylaw doesn't allow for that either in delegations. You can't speak to something that's outside the jurisdiction of a municipality.
Yes, of course.
Just to clarify. Currently, the process goes in where the mayor and the CAO look at the applications, but none of that is provided to council.
Actually, it's not the mayor and the CAO, it's council and the CAO.
Who decide on the delegations?
Correct. And that was my issue with the last denying of, or the first and hopefully the last denying of public comment, was that it was the CAO and council who made the decision. However, we never had that decision brought to us.
Actually, section 23.3.2 says council or the corporate officer may refuse to place a delegation on the agenda.
Exactly, not the mayor.
My apologies. That's just I'm just following the procedure since I've been here and trying to.
I understand. Yeah. Those are all my questions.
Any other questions? Yes, go ahead, Councillor Parkinson.
So I was talking with Mayor Tate this evening. She had a few questions, and she was wondering why it was we were in such a hurry to pass this when she will be back in 2 weeks. And she would like to have input into what this bylaw is stating. And she says for the bylaw 634, it says that the CAO and the CO will have the authority over all presentations to approve or deny. And she thinks that she doesn't understand why that is happening, and that it should be the mayor and the CAO or council and the CAO. And she was wondering if we could put this off for 2 weeks until she is back and able to speak to this. So I would like to make a motion to table this until Mayor Tate is back.
There's a motion to table. It's non-debatable. So, and that's my ruling on that, because a motion to table is non-debatable.
So, excuse me, just on language, as a point of clarification, I understand tabling means to later in the meeting. If you want it to go to another date, it's to postpone. So just as a matter of semantics.
Okay, I wish to postpone this until Mayor Tate is back to speak to the issues.
Which is debatable. So is there anybody who would like to speak to that? Was there a seconder? So does anybody want to speak to that on the need? Or?
Thank you, and thank you for the presentation. I have no problem waiting for Mayor Tate to come back. Clearly in the social media realm, there's been a lot of comment made about shutting down opportunity to speak, but certainly I think that was a bit of the pressure trying to get things back to a point where people had the opportunity to speak and speak on more matters and for a longer period of time. But I have no objection to putting this over to Mayor Tate coming back.
Councillor Pearson.
And I'll echo some of the sentiments that you just said, Councillor Ray. I think that the ball's in motion now, and you know, I'm not in a big hurry that if we have to, but there is a big hurry out there to say that we have to improve our procedural bylaw for access to the public, and this is taking care of that. It seems to be pretty well thought out. I think, from my point of view, I think it's a well done document. I guess it's a request that's coming from a council member that's not here is kind of unusual for me. I guess it's that feels a little unusual to me, but to me is either you're here or you're not here. Not to say that we're not an open council. I mean, we're elected to do a job, and so anyways, that's my points.
Councillor Logans?
I have no issue with leaving it to another date when Mayor Tate has returned. It's only in a few weeks, and I can understand that it is timely and we need to get this done, but it would be good if we all took a look at it, especially the mayor who will be with us for a long time acting these out, to have some input on it. So I don't see why it's not a big deal to me if we push it a couple of weeks.
Well, just to let all of you know and the members of the public, I did give the mayor a brief outline that this matter was in fact going to be discussed at the previous council meeting. I outlined a number of the proposed changes that had been contemplated or discussed with then acting Mayor Ray, myself, and staff. Since that time, and since our last meeting, I have not received a comment or a phone call or an email or a text in regard to our agenda and what's on this item. As acting mayor, I'm a little surprised. But, I'm of the view of this, that whether there's 4 members here, 5 members around this table, or 6 members, that the business of the district must be seen to be done. The business does not stop for any one person, whether it's one councillor missing, whether it's a mayor who's on a leave of absence, because that's not how government works, ever, in any jurisdiction. And we have to make sure that that our business is seen by the public to be done by the elected officials that are around this table to make decisions. And this item was previously approved by council. A resolution was passed to instruct staff to prepare proposed amendments to the bylaw. Since that decision was made, as I said, I received no comments from the mayor, who's on a leave of absence, nor did I receive any comments today. The mayor was aware that I was away on the weekend, but I didn't receive any emails or any texts or any phone messages pointing out to any concerns raised in what's proposed here today. So I will not be supporting the motion to postpone. And I'm of the view that business must be seen to be done, no matter who's away. And I can't support it. I'm acting mayor, previous acting mayor, and the previous meetings where we've conducted a whole series of business. The mayor has shown the respect of council to allow council to make those deliberations and decisions. And I stand by that. I wouldn't ask council to defer a decision if I wasn't there or any other member, because I don't think that's fair to the organization as a whole. And it's no disrespect to the mayor or anybody here around this table. But I just don't come from that school of thought. I was never trained that way as an elected official, and that's not how I view public service. It's to do the job you're elected to do when the meetings occur. So I'll leave it up to council members to vote their conscience. Any further discussion?
Sure.
On the bylaw and,
Yes.
and on the question relating to the merits to postpone.
Right? So for the merits on postponing, I think this is a big issue for the council as a whole. It would be better if all of us were here for something like this. I think it does cut the legs kind of off the mayor and some of the items that we have here, whereas on page 68, it says that the CAO and corporate officer will evaluate applications to present to council and outlines that updates will be submitted. The mayor should have a say in what is going on. There's actually quite a few things that I do not agree with this bylaw, in that I still believe that we should have, at the end of our meetings, the public input where the public's allowed to speak on current issues. People have gotten up just to speak and say, thank you very much for doing the roundabout. Now they will have no opportunity to be able to speak on the spur of the moment, to have what they wish to say to council. And I think that that should be put back in, even though it's not. Did have any questions. Council's request for information, which is on page 24, that council has to make requests for information through the chair and the CAO. And they have to do a write-up for information that they want. So even if it was something simple, you're coming in to ask. I had a woman who was putting in a tea house, and she had questions about what was needed, right? So I come in to ask, like, give me an idea of what I can say. So we're not allowed to have any of that kind of input without writing a letter and having it proved before we can get the information to be able to speak to residents. I just see that as being wrong. Sorry, I didn't write down all my questions. Anyhow, that would be it for now. Thanks.
Okay, great. So, yes, just on the merit of the motion to
That's what I was
postpone.
going to
Okay,
bring
great.
back
Thank
to the
you.
table, is
Thank you.
that we have a motion.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, all those in
Your
favor?
Worship?
Yes.
Can I just add something, please? Just that Ms. Hall was correct in that the council procedure bylaw does have to be advertised for 2
Yes.
consecutive weeks
Okay.
under section 124.
So are you recommending that the matter be postponed on that basis?
Absolutely.
Okay, great. So, so I will change my public pronouncement on that basis. But I do not change and I stand by my previous comments that on those other merits and the rationale that business cannot stop, nor should it be seen to stop because one member or two members or three members are not in attendance. A majority runs this municipality. The board of directors runs on the basis of majority votes. One member, one vote. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Yay.
And our next item of business is the reports requiring action, recommendations from the Committee of the Whole meeting of February 22nd, 2016 meeting, the Southern Vancouver Island Nature Trails Society letter of support. So council to consider the Committee of the Whole recommendation. Could I get a motion to that effect? What's on the item? Seconder?
Second.
All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Next item of business is recommendations for the SUC Program of the Arts, the SPA Committee, from February 24th, 2016, and we have two items. Is anybody going to make a motion regarding those two items?
Well, I'll move the recommendation.
Is that recommendation 1 and 2?
1 and 2.
Is there a seconder to that effect?
I'll second it for discussion.
Okay, could I, okay, fine, go ahead, Councilor Pearson.
My question is that it's kind of ambiguous that council consider the roundabout for public arts in the future after long-term use of the roundabout has been experienced. What does that mean?
We have our chair of SPA here if you wish to ask questions.
Oh,
Could
okay.
I have a motion just to have the chair come forward?
Yeah.
Thank you. Could you come forward and just state your name for the record, name and address for the record?
Yeah. I was just concerned about question number 2, or item number 2, sorry.
Yes. My name is Drew Johnston. I'm the chair of the SPA committee. I think some members of the committee felt that, well, it didn't seem practical to have a piece of artwork placed in the roundabout at this time. I think there was concerns about the logging trucks. It's a highway coming through. We all know that I think there was a small fountain in Langford that was wiped out not too long ago. So they thought that it could be beautified just with landscaping. But and there were also concerns that they put a nice piece of artwork in there that people would cross the boundary and to look at it. So for those reasons, they recommended not placing a piece of artwork in there at this time. They wanted to see how it was going to work with the logging trucks and other larger vehicles passing through town. But I think they didn't want to close it off completely to that there, if it doesn't present a problem, that there might be some value in having a piece of artwork in the future there.
I'll make a recommendation I'll make a motion that we adopt the two recommendations.
No, it was already on.
Oh, I already
moved and
did.
seconded.
Second, okay, yeah, sorry.
So I have a question, and it's no disrespect to your group or anybody else. When did somebody ever decide that something of artwork would go in the center of the roundabout? I don't recall that council ever making that motion.
No, when the committee was first, I guess, reinstated, there were some people that approached our committee to make a presentation saying, a piece of artwork would look great in the roundabout. And in fact, one person came forward with a sculpture. And I think, the sculpture in question was $30,000 approximately.
Oh, really?
So that wipes out the reserve fund pretty quickly. So that was probably another reason why the committee decided against it. And thought that there's other roundabouts near the airport, Langford, and so forth. They can look quite nice with natural landscaping.
Sure, and if I may, then there's also considerations of what the Ministry of Transportation Highways standards are, sight lines, visibility, that, and they would have a huge influence because it's actually their road.
True.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? Yes, Councillor Ray.
So did we just move the first one? Or
no, it was 1 and 2.
Okay.
And that's my understanding. Yes.
Okay, yeah.
So any other questions?
Not any questions, but just as long as we vote on them separately.
Very good. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All those in favor of the motion? Opposed? Carried?
I'm sorry, did we vote on both of them?
Yes.
Okay.
Because
well,
it was moved 1 and 2.
Okay, well, the point that I have is I support the first one, but not the second one, so.
Okay, well. Well, it was to consider it. It was just a consideration. Okay?
This is just a consideration.
All right. So the motion's passed. The next item of business that we have is the recommendation of the Sauk Park Trails Advisory Committee meeting, and that's John Phillips Memorial Park.
We also have members from the committee here to speak to the issue, if you like.
Okay, so is that the wish of the committee or council to hear the members of the committee chair? Is that agreed? Could I get a motion to that effect?
Second.
Great. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Go ahead. Come on. Normally, we don't have the presentations because I don't see it in any of our procedures. So, but
I could. Yes,
but here we go.
I appreciate
so here we go.
Yes, I appreciate your time very much,
Okay.
honorable members.
All right.
We had sat down on the 1st of March, and we'd gone over the public consultation. At our times, we had 80 people attend a Sea Park section, and then we had 189 people respond to an online survey. I do believe, I hope you have the outlines of it.
Mm-hmm.
It basically broke down into 3 different sections. The top 3 items felt very comfortably in their little quadrant. Heavily voted for. The number 1 item was public washroom. The second one was the loop trail. And the third one was picnic table and benches. So after a bit of discussion on all the relative features that could go into there, these are the ones the public do feel that would be best served in that area. So we'd like to recommend the council allocate financial resources in a 2016-2017 public space enhancement fund towards these priorities. Questions, if you have.
Any questions? Okay, I have a comment. I just want to thank the committee for all its work and effort. I attended the open house session.
Mm-hmm.
It was well attended. People got to put their priorities 1 to 7 on the different boards. And I know that you did a lot of analysis and work. I personally support these issues. I've alluded to that in the media because I did read the minutes and the report that was specially put together on what the 3 main items are. The one thing that I would personally like to see staff look at in the budget is the provision of some sort of parking, because currently there is no provision for parking area for this park. And I'm namely thinking, in my mind, something in close proximity to the municipal parking lot just below us, because that would allow some additional opportunities for people that either have a physical impairment or have a hard time going down the stairs in order to get access to the park if they come by a motor vehicle. So I hope that maybe, you know, your group was thinking along those lines. I know that parking had been discussed, or it has been discussed, but I didn't see it specifically.
It was never on the original plan.
Right.
And so we addressed the plan verbatim from where it was, as opposed to rearrest to create something new.
The sad thing is that where there were some parks that were adjacent to this park, they were sold off, which could have provided parking.
Those areas are done,
Yeah. So it's not there anymore. But anyway, I just want to thank you for that. So could I get a motion, actually, that this would go to finance discussions and budget discussions at our further meetings? Could I get a motion to that effect?
I'll make a motion that council
consider
prioritize improvements to John Phillips Memorial Park as follows in the order that they're listed here, and that council work on the financial long-term priorities. That this is included in that in the financial priorities for 2016 and 17 in the upcoming discussions. I don't know how that motion sounds.
That's fine. That's fine. I'll take that
And
as a motion. And as long as staff is nodding their head, they understand. That's all I think we should care about. Good. Any more discussion?
Yep.
Hearing none. All those in favor?
Yes, discussion.
Oh, sorry. I didn't. Who?
You didn't look me.
Oh,
Thank you,
okay,
Mr.
go
Johnson, and it's good work, and it's about time that we actually put some feet to the ground in the park and get some things done. So, I applaud you and your committee. So
Thank
it's
you.
really
I'd
cool.
like to thank the city's work and the hard work of these folks.
Right on. Good. Thank you. It's really exciting to see
Mr.
something
Reed.
being done.
Thank you. Okay, I'll call the question. All those in favor?
Did we have a seconder for that? Sorry. Okay.
Yes. Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Next item of business is the award of requests for the quote Galloping Goose Connector gravel multi-use trail. And so who is going to lead on this? Rob?
Acting Mayor Casper, I'm here to go over the request for the decisions as put forward by staff. And I'm just going to hit the executive summary. On December 4th, 2015, council made the following resolution. It was moved and seconded that the proceed with the Bike BC multi-trail project on Sucreville Road, and to proceed with the survey, design, and construction of that multi-use trail from Kirby Road to Suc Road, including through an area of the park property, subject to council's approval of the location of the trail prior to construction. And that multi-use trail project must not exceed $150,000 in total costs. The project was divided into two requests for quotes, one for the construction of the multi-use trail from Kirby Road to Suc Road, and one for the construction of the gravel trail through the park property. This particular report, one is for the paved separated multi-use trail project. The RFQ closed at 2 p.m. on Thursday, March 3rd, 2016. The district has committed to granting the agency to have the project completed by June 30th, 2016. So that is for the paved portion. The second RFP, I don't think I need to go through the executive summary again because it's the same thing. And this report was for the gravel multi-use trail portion through the Sucreville Road Park. The RFQ again closed to 2 p.m. on Thursday, March 3rd, 2016. And again, the district has committed to fulfilling its obligation to do the works. The request for the decision, as noted in the report, is to award to York Excavating for the paved separated multi-use trail construction, and to Jasmine Excavating for the gravel multi-use construction project through the Sucreville Park. And if there's any questions.
I'll move the recommended action on the first one, that Jasmine's Excavating.
Okay, are there any questions or comments? So I have a question. So what is the total cost going to be if we approve the next part for everything?
The total cost would be $29,500 plus $64,098. I'd have to do the arithmetic. Help me, Brent. Well, 69 and change in 20.
Just under 100.
Just under 100,000.
I just want to add that this is council had, I think, set this at 150.
150,000 was the ceiling, but set by council.
Yep.
So we're just under 100,000.
So are there any anticipated drainage works or things that might have to be done? Ditching?
There will be some minor ditching as we proceed along Sucreville Road, but the contractor who is awarded the project will be working with our staff to mitigate any kind of drainage problem that might occur as the gravels go down.
Yes, Councillor Ray?
Thank you. And I would imagine sort of the light costs, the survey costs and stuff like that would be on top of that. Anything outside of that would still come in with under $150,000.
Under $150,000.
Thank you.
Okay, so any more discussion? Any more questions? Okay, I'll call the question on the first motion. And all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. And so there's a second part to this?
Yes.
You only move the first one?
Yep.
And there's the second part?
I'll move the second recommendation, recommended,
And that's to award
contract to the
York Excavating Limited, correct?
Yep, for the paved portion.
For $64,098, correct?
That's correct.
Could I get a motion to that effect?
I already moved that, yep.
Seconded. Any more discussion? All those in favor, oppose, carried. I voted in favor. Okay, that's it for that? Mr. Howard? Or did you have are you dealing with the next item too? Okay, next item is the appointment of the deputy approving officer position? Correct?
Yep.
Did you want to speak to that, seeing as that you're the approving officer?
Okay. The request for delegating the authority to Nikki Lurz, the deputy approving officer, is given my new duties and tasks as the director of development services. I find that I need assistance in doing the duties and functions of the approving officer. Nikki is more than capable, given her past experiences as being the deputy approving officer here in Sioux. I need a deputy that can speak for me in the day-to-day working, in the day-to-day dealing with the applicants and the public. She's more than capable of dealing with it, and it allows me to carry on more with the functions of being the director of the development services, which is keeping me quite busy. As I said, Nikki is very experienced, very knowledgeable, and very capable of dealing with the issues that come forward in council. And more than that, is she's really amiable with all the public. And she's got very good communication skill. And again, she's very capable of doing the work.
Questions? Councillor Parkinson?
So Nikki was previously the deputy approving officer. I was just wondering why she is no longer holds that position, and why we would be reappointing her.
I would have to defer that question to council with regards to why she isn't the approving officer at this particular time. The reason for having her reinstated as the deputy approving officer, as I said, is to assist me in the day-to-day functionality of the approving function within the district, because I'm fairly busy with my other duties. And I'm sorry that the other issue is beyond my scope to be able to answer.
No. Could I get a motion?
I have another question.
Yes.
So will there be a pay increase to this additional position?
The CAO and myself will be endeavoring to redo the job description and the duties within that job description. And yes, there will be a pay increase with that.
Thank you.
Director of Finance, have any comments? So in the current job description, it's a subdivision technician position, is that correct?
The land development technician.
Land development, okay. Which deals with subdivision, correct?
Deals with subdivisions and several other issues as well. The delegation of authority will solidify the position, solidify her duties and tasks.
And there's a room in the current budget, correct? I see nods, yes. Brent?
I'll discuss with CAO and Rob, and we'll make sure that the budget's appropriate.
Okay. Could I get a motion
So moved.
to the recommendation?
Second.
All those in favor? Opposed, carried. Okay. Next item of business is consent of CRD bylaw number 4058, the Capital Regional District Climate
Your Worship.
Act. Oh, which
sorry,
one?
you missed item RA7.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. And that's the public officer and designated employee appointments. So we have a staff presentation on that. It says staff report and presentation. So there's a motion. So the motion is that council appoint Gabriel Joseph as corporate officer for the District of Sauk under Section 148 of the Community Charter. Any questions or discussion? Yes, I'll turn it over to our CAO, Ms. Sullivan.
Thank you. Through the chair, this appointment is as a result of one of our staff members choosing to make a lifestyle decision to go part-time. We will be planning on competing a deputy corporate officer position immediately as soon as we have the job description done. And this is combining the old corporate officer position with the new director of corporate services position, which in the end will save the district some money. I don't know exactly how much yet, but it will be close to approximately $75,000. It's no different from what we did with respect to the combination of the planning, engineering, and building department and putting that all under one director. That was to improve efficiencies, streamline communications, and to put that department together because the work is so intertwined. It's pretty much the same with respect to our corporate services.
I'll move the recommended action.
Yes. Could I just speak to it first? Would it not be more appropriate to say acting corporate officer? Because if there's going to be a competition, would that be?
Thank you. We can do that.
So is the mover and seconder agree to that?
Yes.
I just wanted a point of clarity because competition term acting would probably be more appropriate. Fair enough. Any discussion? Yes, Councillor Logan.
I'm opposed to this motion. I believe that the person we are about to appoint is wonderful, and I have nothing. It's not a personal thing at all. I just believe that this is a position that should be posted to the District of Sauk.
So it is actually going to be a posting, correct?
Yes, after we've completed doing the job descriptions, both the Director of Corporate Services and the Director of Development Services positions will be posted.
And one's a union bargaining position?
The bargaining position job descriptions that we're currently reviewing.
I think, sorry to interject, but I think that I was misunderstood. I believe that the position of corporate officer should be posted. Not the deputy corporate officer.
We are doing both.
So why are we appointing, we're just appointing interim?
Acting.
Yeah, acting.
Oh, and that was the discussion that you just, okay.
Yeah.
Answer your question?
That answers that question.
And with respect to QP job descriptions that we're reviewing right now, I don't anticipate any competitions unless something comes vacant.
Okay. Does everybody understand the motion then?
No.
Councillor
I
Parkinson.
do have a question. So Gabriel will be appointed as acting corporate officer, but the position will be posted for?
The Director of Corporate Services and acting corporate officer.
Right.
Once the job description is done, the position will be competed.
For
a
combined corporate officer, correct?
As the combined,
for a combined
job description, yes.
Good.
We are doing the same thing we did in development services with respect to integrating a department and saving some costs, some salary costs. So the combined position of Director of Corporate Services and acting corporate officer will have one job description, and that job description will be posted.
So what happens?
And there's a competition.
So you might not have a job then? Like, sounds odd.
Well, that's how it works, and that's the process. So that's...
Wow.
It's no different from our Director of Development Services.
Councillor Logans.
I have a question about saving salary costs. So you said approximately $75,000. Does that include the cost of the position of Director of Corporate Services?
Yes.
So really, that position's only been around for a couple of months. So it's probably actually costing us more to have both positions.
Right now it is.
And it still will.
It
so
still
it's not
will.
really a savings compared to last year's budget.
Well, we do have an issue with respect to our former corporate officer and the package that she received. So eventually it will be savings, but at right now, they're both on our payroll.
But comparatively, last year's salaries to this year's salaries?
We're still saving money. We're saving approximately, and don't quote me, but approximately $23,000.
So the actual
we're still
saving
below.
would be
Yeah.
about $23,000.
Yes.
Thank you.
And also because there's been no filling of the deputy position in finance, which did deal or indirectly dealt with HR requirements, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Anybody else? I'll call the question. All those in favor of the motion? Opposed? Motion's carried.
Now CRD.
Yes, yes. Speak to that right now. Okay, the next item of business is consent of CRD bylaw 4058, the Capital Regional District Climate Action and Adaptation Service Establishment Bylaw 2008. And there was an amendment to bylaw number 1 in 2016. So we have a report here on that? That's what it says, Corporate Services Report Presentation. Yes, Tina.
So the CRD are asking for council consent to the adoption of CRD bylaw number 4058, Capital Regional District Climate Action and Adaptation Service Establishment Bylaw 2008, Amendment Bylaw number 1.
Questions or comments? Yes.
So I'm just looking at the amount that this has gone up. It's gone up from a requisition amount of $200,000 to just shy of $300,000. And I saw in the report that it's prorated in terms of communities, and I think for Souk it goes from 6,000 to 8,000. I'm just wondering how the vote went at the CRD. Was this a unanimous vote, or what the position of the director here for Souk was?
Well, I support the initiative, so I think that, we're all in this together. And this program has some merits. Some people, think, well, maybe it doesn't. I'm a firm believer and supporter that I don't want to see the bureaucracy within the CRD grow. There are some initiatives that I think should take place. So. And I know that our council has passed a number of resolutions. We have a climate action committee. We actually have 2 separate committees that are dealing with these issues. So.
Okay, I'll move the recommended action then.
It's moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Here none. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. And so, Tina, that will be that will be referred to the CRD, correct?
Yes, it will. A letter will go out to them tomorrow.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, we have reports for information, council committee, COW commissions, staff, CAO, development services. So R1-1, I had asked that be dropped from the agenda, and it would actually come back to our next council meeting when our RCMP staff is present, correct? Okay, we have mayor and council reports, verbal. I'll start on my extreme. Nothing to report?
Same, nothing.
Nothing? Councillor Parkins?
So I attended the SPA committee meeting, and they're working on the mural mosaic project, and it's moving along, and the committee is asking for submissions for the mural design. The Communities in Bloom will be presenting their proposal at the next SPA meeting to bring forward to council. The Anti-Bully Day rally was great. There was an excellent turnout with public members, RCMP, district staff, and there was a positive review from those passing by. There was CD Saturday on February 27th. There was an excellent turnout with 1,100 visitors to the event. It was pretty amazing. I attended the CERTA AGM on February 29th. Or Councillor Logans was there as well. There was an excellent presentation by John Walls of Sheringham Point Lighthouse Preservation Society. In 2003, the government wanted to dispose of the lighthouse, so the society was formed to save it, and they were successful. So they have been given heritage status and became the stewards of the land and the lighthouse. On May 2015, the lighthouse became a designated heritage site and the property of the society. On March 1st was the Parks and Trails Committee meeting, and the results, as you heard, of the John Phillips Park, which was pretty awesome. I guess it was one of the better successful online responses with 189 people responding. On March 2nd was the Historical Society board meeting. They're doing a grounds cleanup. They're removing some of the plants in front of the artifact pavilion. It allows for a better viewing of the artifacts, better security, and extra space for activities. Their bus tours have already started. They had one on March 6th, and there's a number of them coming up in the next few months, including a barbecue in late April. The night market has 24 applications already, and there's space for 36. Then I attended the Regional Housing Trust Fund Commission, which was an orientation for new members to this board. And it was really interesting to hear that in Victoria, you need $67,000 a year for a one-bedroom apartment to rent, and you need $93,000 for a two-bedroom. So they're looking to secure more funding for non-market and low-end market housing. And then on March 5th was Appetite for Art, which was a successful art event at the hotel with funds going to the youth program for arts and to the food bank. There you go. Busy.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. I just want to report out on some items relating to the CRD. At the last CRD meeting, the CRD board agreed and had reached a agreement with Sauk Nation, authorizing them to utilize the leach water lands that are owned by the Capital Regional District and administered by the CRD Water Commission. For traditional purposes, which would include hunting and fishing, food gathering, and other matters that relate to their culture and heritage. This agreement was approximately 2 years in the making, and it was voted on unanimously and approved by the board. Councillor Planis was there on behalf of the First Nation, Sauk First Nation Council, and gave a brief presentation. So I was very pleased to see that this agreement was reached, and they were applauded for their efforts by the board members who spoke, myself included. There's been a number of committee meetings I've attended, the usual that occur at the board. On next week, I will be attending a meeting of a First Nations committee that is going to be looking at some strategic planning and some advocacy and some recommendations to the board on other First Nations engagement. Also, some of the other discussions I've had with some of my colleagues, one was the Mayor of Sydney and the Mayor of Central Saanich. And we had some discussions that related to how our communities have been kind of tarnished with the same brush by our neighbors in Washington State, that in the greater core area they do not have sewage treatment. And there's been a proposed travel edict put on by the state legislature, and there's been editorials in the Seattle papers relating to the fact that the CRD and the Greater Victoria area does not have sewage treatment. The Mayor of Sydney took it upon himself on his behalf to send a letter to the legislature pointing out that Central Saanich does have sewer treatment. That's prompted myself as acting mayor and the mayor of Central Saanich to put together a similar letter, and that will be going out tomorrow to the state legislature. It will also go out to the communities that are in and around the Puget Sound. The purpose of our letter is to also state that our communities are serviced by sewage treatment and saltwater discharge, and we have a very high standard. Our letters also point out that we are open for business. We invite residents and tourists to come to our communities to enjoy the natural setting that we have and all the opportunities for recreational pursuit from our neighbors to the south. And we value our American tourists. The other thing that is also noted in our statement relating to Souk is that we have hotel accommodation and conference facilities for those visitors and people who want to conduct business here. So I think it's an important step to set the record straight, because what's occurred by others to the south, and I understand that, yes, the core areas are working hard to implement their sewage treatment, and they've been wrestling with that issue for many years. And we support them in their efforts, but the three of us as directors at that board table who have witnessed all the discussions and the very slow movement felt that our communities are kind of given the false impression to our neighbors to the south. On the weekend, I was away, and I'd previously arranged to go to Port Angeles for just pleasure, and I took it upon myself to contact the mayor of Port Angeles. I met with him for 2 hours, and he was totally unaware that Souk, he knows the community of Souk, had sewage treatment. I gave him some token gifts, and I want to thank the Souk Region Museum for assisting me in actually putting together a package to present on our behalf to the mayor and council. And he also had the opportunity to give to us a book. It's called The Olympic Leaders, The Life and Times of the Websters of Port Angeles, and also an official token or merit badge, I guess, or medal that we'll put on display, hopefully, in our case here. I also had a discussion with Alita Pierce, our historian, and she just reminded me that Souk had an arrangement established some time ago with Port Townsend as a sister city, but to my recollection, nothing very much has transpired to that effect over the years. So, I'm not advocating that we do this, but But I think the more relationships we build with our neighbors to the south and kind of telling them what we have to offer, I think is very good for our community, because we value American tourists to come here. They can go pretty far with their dollar, I think we would agree, and it will really prove benefit to the local businesses, both who are selling their wares and services and also our hoteliers. So I just thought I'd give council an update on that, and that's all I have to say as far as that item. So our next item of business is correspondence requiring action, and that's a March 2nd letter from the association responsible and environmentally sustainable sewage treatment. So perhaps it's timely. So that there, I got to find the page on this. 168. Tina, where's that in my agenda package? Okay, I just got to find it here. Okay, so what's the wish of council on this? Do you want to move this recommendation? Perhaps you want an opportunity to reread it, or just... Yes, go ahead, Councillor Pearson.
Well, I read it, and it's got, pictures of Justin Trudeau, and it's quite a complex document, but I'm not really sure what they're even asking as far as it says, be it resolved that the CRD vigorously pursue negotiations with the federal government to correct the risk classification of Victoria's present treatment system of long, deep sea outfalls from high risk to low risk. So it's asking us to make a motion that seems contrary to treatment of sewage. I don't know. That's kind of the way I'm reading this.
I can read.
Yes. Councillor Ray.
Yes, my understanding is that Prime Minister Trudeau has made a statement that all the decisions will be evidence-based in everything that they do, that looking at the research. And what I understand is that this fellow is saying that the research out there says that the process that the South Island has used in Victoria, taking the sewage way out, makes it a low-risk process. That's what the research says. That's what the evidence says. And there were, I understand, a few small, they're not experiments, a few small processes that went out and looked at it and found it to be high risk. So he's just, my understanding is they're asking to look at and support evidence-based research. And they're saying that the research says it's low risk. Personally, I think this is out of my realm. I don't know. Pardon me?
Who actually sent this? Doesn't say who it came from.
Yeah, it was an article in the Focus.
No, but the email, right?
Yeah, and he wrote the article in Focus, if I remember correctly.
Excuse me.
Yes, go ahead.
I'll move I'll make a motion that we receive this for information.
Could I get a seconder? It's moved and seconded. Any more discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, the next item is correspondence from the Corporation District of Central Saanich. We take the pledge for parity. And there's actually a motion attached to this. What's the wish of the members?
I'll move the motion.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
No.
Everybody understand the motion? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. The next item of business is the council reader file, and that was dated February 2016.
Move receipt.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. The next item is number I2, I2, and that's a letter to UBCM, and it is from the Minister Shirley Bond, update regarding ongoing arrival of Syrian refugees into BC communities. It's been moved. Is there a seconder? Second. It's moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Next item is correspondence dated February 20th from Judy Halsmer, deer call in Whiffen Spit.
I have a question.
Okay, could I get a seconder and then we have a question? Okay, move in second. Go ahead, Councillor Parkinson.
I was just wondering, because they're hunting in the center of town, basically, like in our community. And do we have I thought there was a bylaw restricting hunting within our boundaries.
I think that's a firearms discharge, a discharge of firearms.
Yeah, this is a, this
with
is
a gun.
Right,
but
not with the bow and arrows.
No.
With this.
Go ahead, Councillor Pearson.
So have we, can we ask staff to make sure that our bylaw enforcement officer forwards this on to the conservation officer? I'm not sure that they're not aware, but I mean, I think they probably are, but can we just, okay. Because it's something that needs to be, I mean, it appears from what I'm reading online and all the social media that's out there, it appears that a lot of people know. I just want to make sure that our position is that, the appropriate authorities are notified because, it sounds like they're skirting the laws somehow.
The proper authorities have been notified, and I know it seems like they are skirting the law, but in fact they're not because they're using bow and arrow instead of a firearm. We've received a number of complaints from our residents with respect to finding deer with arrows stuck in their heads running through the backyards and the such, and it might be something that council may wish to consider reviewing our bylaw, perhaps.
Yeah, I think it's appropriate that we look at the whole, but this is not hunting. This is like there's a whole different realm. This is something.
My belief is that it's population control.
Yeah, but doesn't that fall to the ministry somehow?
Ask Oak Bay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, that's what I'm saying is
Yeah,
that, I mean, Oak Bay is going through this huge dilemma on this deer call, and it seems to be, and there's lots of public debate around that, and I believe it's a ministry-driven thing. I just don't understand how this is kind of taking place. Like, this is outside of hunting season and all kinds. This is actually just killing deer, right? So,
I would like to check with staff to see if we've already done a report on this, and if not, maybe we could.
So perhaps the mover and seconder could agree to just change the motion instead of just receive the information or the letter for information. Yeah.
well, I'm only talking in this. I mean, I can make another motion after this, but I just want to it's receipt for information. But my point is that are the property authorities being notified to know? Okay, that's all. Thank you.
I do believe that we do need to do something about it because this isn't the first time that this has happened. And across the road from where I live, there was a deer that had an arrow in it, and the little girl that lived there found it. So it's not acceptable for stuff like that to happen in our community, I don't think.
Well, if this incident occurred on agricultural land, well, if it did, so then I think they do have some different types of rules that apply, I think. But anyway, could we just deal with the first motion, and then if there's a subsequent motion to follow up and refer this to staff to bring back a report on the bylaw, any changes, and also to bring forward the recommendations that Director Hicks from the Wandafuca area had requested council to pursue in regard to the geese issue. Okay. So the first motion then is all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Could I get a motion then to refer this back to staff to bring back a report on the matter regarding bow hunting within our municipality, and also the matter relating to the request that Director Hicks had asked us to pursue with a bylaw amendment?
Second.
Very good. Tina? Okay, good. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay. And we have. No, I-5 wasn't. No, that's right. The deer call was I-4, right?
There's a second one on the deer call.
Okay,
there.
great. Okay, so I-4 then is correspondence from a Bonnie Gibson deer call. Would that come under the same category too? Okay. All right. Could I get a motion then to receive the correspondence and then? Okay. All those in favor? Opposed? Carry. And staff would then follow up with that one. Okay. Very good. Correspondence dated March the 10th, District of Metchosin, re the ABICC resolution, protection of old growth forests. Go ahead, Director or Councillor Lovens.
I'm just wondering, because this is a letter that is, or a motion that's going forward to ABICC, so I'm wondering if Council would be willing to make a motion to support the District of Metchosin in this motion at ABICC.
We just need to make a motion. Is that what you'd like to do?
Yes.
Okay, it's been moved, seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. So it would, a letter would then go to ABICC with council's support, correct? Okay. The next item is RIC1, resolutions from March 7th, 2016, special council meeting in camera, Sucreville Road right-of-way. And so could I, we don't need to make a motion, it's just that it's noted that this item was reported out. No further action. Staff will bring forward a subsequent report, correct? An action. Okay, very good. Okay, so that ends the public portion of the meeting. I haven't missed anything, correct, staff? Okay, I'm going to read out this motion, and then we will make a motion to move in camera. Motion to close the meeting to the public under Section 90- subsection 1 and 90 subsection 2 of the Community Charter to discuss personal information about an identifiable individual who holds or is being considered for a position as an officer, employee, or agent of the municipality and or a position appointed by the municipality. 90 subsection 1 subject K, negotiations and related discussions respecting the proposed provision of municipal service that are at their preliminary stages and that in the view of council could reasonably be expected to harm the interests of the municipality if they were held in public. And 90 sub 2A, a request under the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy if the council is designated as head of a local public body for the purposes of that act in relation to the matter. So could I get a motion to move in camera?
So moved.
It's moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Great. Thank you very much.